The main functions of the circulatory system. The circulatory system is the delivery of oxygen, nutrient molecules, hormones, and the removal of carbon dioxide, ammonia, and other metabolic wastes. Capillaries are the points of exchange between the blood and the surrounding tissues. Functions of the circulatory system. Respiration delivers oxygen to the cells and removing carbon dioxide from them. Nutrition carries digested food substances to the cells of the body. Waste removal disposes of waste products and poisons that would harm the body if they accumulated. Immunity helps protect the body from disease. Cellular communication, a mode of transport for hormones. Thermoregulation is a mode of transport for heat, can both warm and cool the body. Blood, a connective tissue consisting of cells and cell fragments dispersed in fluid, usually called plasma. Heart pumps the blood through the body. Blood vessels, or spaces through which blood circulates. Two main types of circulatory systems are open and closed systems. Some parts of the circulatory system are pulmonary capillary, pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein, precava, aorta, right atrium, left atrium, post cava, right ventricle, left ventricle, black blood, arterial blood, and capillaries of peripheral tissues.
The circulatory system is composed of three main organs: the blood, the vessels, and the heart. The blood, in instance, carries waste, water, nutrients, and oxygen to the body. It's composed of cells like red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and plasma, each one with a different function. Red blood cells, for instance, transfer oxygen from lungs to body cells. After delivering oxygen to those body cells, red blood cells take up carbon dioxide and take it back to the lungs and drop it off. White blood cells protect from disease and fight infections in the body. Platelets prevent excessive bleeding when cells are cut or damaged. So those are the material that clogs up the blood when we have a paper cut or anything like that. Plasma, it's a liquid portion of the blood, and it transports the blood cells throughout the entire body and other substances. And in this picture, you can clearly see the red blood cells, circular shape. Platelets are very tiny. White blood cells are larger, and you can see the plasma, which is a liquid that allows the blood to flow. The next organ we're going to talk about is blood vessels. So blood vessels allow blood to flow from one part of the body to another part, and it could be a very long distance or a very short distance. And vessels like arteries and veins are a lot thicker than vessels like capillaries because they allow a lot more blood to flow through them. The hollow space that the blood flows through is called the lumen. Capillaries, which are smaller blood vessels like we mentioned before, they allow the transfer of nutrients, waste, and oxygen in and out of the body. So this is where the gas exchange portion is really happening, and they provide a connection between veins and arteries. Arteries are other vessels that carry oxygen. They carry oxygenated blood with nutrients to the rest of the body. And an example of arteries are coronary arteries, which provide nutrients and oxygen to the heart muscles themselves. And a way to remember that arteries are the vessels that go away from the heart, you can remember that artery starts with A and away starts with A. So arteries go away from the heart, and veins go into the heart. And veins are the ones that carry blood into the heart to become oxygenated by being pumped into the lungs. And oxygenated means that it has blood, and deoxygenated blood, it means it does not contain oxygen. Next, we're going to talk about the heart. And the heart is a muscle about the size of your fist, and it's located behind and to the left of your breastbone. The purpose is to pump blood to the rest of the body through the arteries, veins, and vessels that we mentioned above. It's divided into 4 chambers, 2 of which collect blood and 2 of which pump the blood that is collected. The atriums are the ones that collect the blood, and the ventricles are the ones that receive the blood from the atriums and pump it to the rest of the body. Valves are what separate these ventricles and atriums and prevent backflow of blood. It's a continuous flow forward. And in the picture, you can see the differences. There's a right and left atrium as well as a right and left ventricle. The blood circulation is a little bit difficult to remember at first, but if you draw a diagram, it's going to help you out a lot to memorize and visualize the actual blood flow. And the circulation is initiated in the right side of the heart, which is actually the smaller side of the heart, and it's received into the right atrium from the rest of the body. If the blood is actually being received into the heart from the lower part of the body, it'll be received through the inferior vena cava or vena cava. I've heard both ways. And if the blood is being received from the upper body, then it's receiving the blood through the superior vena cava. Inferior means below and superior means above. The deoxygenated blood flows through the tricuspid valve and into the right ventricle. So the right ventricle is the first chamber of the heart that the blood goes through, and it's deoxygenated blood because it still has not had oxygen. Then it goes from the right ventricle into the pulmonary valve and into the pulmonary artery, which goes to the oxygen to receive oxygen and become oxygenated blood. This process occurs through gas exchange when the blood in the capillaries gain oxygen and lose carbon dioxide. And the part of the lungs that allow this gas exchange are called the alveoli. And they're very, very thin and allow things like diffusion and gas exchange to happen. Then once the blood becomes oxygenated, it enters the left atrium through the pulmonary veins. The oxygenated blood then passes through the mitral valve or bicuspid valve, mitral or bicuspid valve, which is the same. They just have two different names, and it goes onto the left ventricle. And lastly, the ventricle pumps the oxygenated blood to the rest of the body, and it passes through the aortic valve and through the aorta. And here you can see in the diagram, it's easier to see or memorize. It starts with 1 and it goes all the way to 10 and tells you the actual steps of the blood flow.